Today we're going to focus on chapter 13. We're going to start our discussion on marketing, helping buyers buy. So what is marketing? Notice the definition: the activity, set of institutions and processes ongoing for both creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings with values for customers as well as partners, clients, and society at large. In the past, marketing was focused on helping sellers sell products, but today marketing has shifted. Now the focus is on helping the buyer purchase and making it easier for the buyer to purchase through such things as giving more information or more channels. It used to be brick and mortar, but now you can go to a website to help buyers find the best prices or give them more information through blogs and social media sites. That's marketing today. I want to take a look at the 4 eras of US marketing, and we'll look at this over the next several slides. The first era here is known as the production era. The second era here is the selling era. Third, the marketing concept era. And fourth, the customer relationship era. The production and selling eras can be found on this slide. The production era occurred in the United States until the early 1900s. And the idea was produce what you can because the market's limitless. So the idea was there were very few suppliers, so people would buy anything. Then in the selling era from 1920 to about 1950 or 1960, here we emphasize selling through advertising to develop a mass production and offer greater demand. In the third era of marketing that really started after World War II, the great economic boom for this country was known as the marketing concept era. Businesses knew that consumers had lots of choices now, and now they had to be responsive to consumers if they wanted their business. So the marketing concept, or this third era of US marketing, included 3 parts. The first is known as customer orientation. Find out what customers want and then provide it to those customers. But it wasn't just the products, it was the overall service, so that make sure everyone in your organization is committed to the customer being satisfied. And third, and still foremost, is profit. Focuses on those tangible goods and intangible services that'll earn the most profits. Finally, the fourth era is known as the customer relationship era, and that's the really era that we're in today. Here is really just treat this as an ongoing relationship, not just one selling, but ongoing. So to learn as much as you can about your customers, and then once you've learned that, to do as much as you can to both satisfy and exceed the customer's expectations. So think about now in the mobile marketing era now. So look at some of these questions or statements here. Customers want things now because they can get things now. Can you do this for me in a simplified manner? This is really important because I want you to look at the bullet point on this slide. The cost of acquiring a new customer is 5 times the cost of keeping or retaining one. So it's important to retain your customers because if you lose them, if you have to go out and find a new customer, it's going to cost you 5 times as much. So I want to introduce you to what's called the 4 P's of marketing. Okay, and this is the 4 P's of marketing is known as the marketing mix. So the marketing mix is product, price, place, and promotion. Those are the 4 P's, or the marketing mix of marketing. We're going to spend the next chapter 14, talking exclusively about these 4 P's of marketing, but let me just give you a little bit of each of these here in the next couple slides. The first P is known as product, and a product is simply a tangible good, an intangible service, or an idea that satisfies a customer's wants or needs. So in order to do that, we have to test on a smaller scale before you go to a larger scale. Products often have brand names, and brand name is simply a word, letter, or a group of words or letters that differentiates one seller's goods from that of its competitors. So McDonald's has the Big Mac, Burger King has the Whopper. The second and third P's of marketing is price and place. Price depends on many factors. So it'll depend on how many competitors you have, how much it costs you to make that good or service, where you can distribute it, and different pricing strategies. When we look at place, we're going to look at not only where the product is finally sold, but we'll also look at all the different intermediaries or middle people that place the product in the final place where the consumer can want it. The fourth P of marketing is known as promotion. And promotion simply is the various techniques that sellers use to inform people about their products and then hopefully motivate them to purchase those products. And when we talk about, you can see there's a lot of different types of promotion, from advertising, personal selling, public relations, word of mouth, and different types of promotions. When we talk about promotions, how to perfect your promotion, how to get customers not just to want your product, but to need your product. So you got to make it so that they love your product. And so find that emotion or psychological connection between the product and your customers is very important. So let's move into a new section here of marketing. We're going to talk about marketing research. Marketing research is analyzing the various markets to determine both challenges as well as opportunities and to find the information needed to make good decisions to fulfill those problems or opportunities. Let's look at the 4 steps of marketing research. First thing again is to define a problem or opportunity in the present situation. Second, once you define that problem or opportunity, you need to collect research data. Third, once you've collected the data, you need to analyze that data. And then finally, fourth, you need to choose the best solution and implement it. So let's look at the first step, defining the problem and opportunity. And look at these various questions that you should probably ask and answer in order to clearly define the problem and opportunity. Then the second step in the marketing research process is to collect data. And there's 2 main types of data: secondary data and primary data. Secondary data is existing data that's been previously collected by sources, such as the federal government. And the great thing about secondary data is that you incur no expense because someone else already collected that data, and oftentimes it can be easily accessible. However, some problems with secondary data is that it doesn't always provide all the needed information needed for marketers, or the data may be old and thus stale. So then sometimes if secondary data doesn't get the data you need, you then turn to primary data. Primary data is in-depth information gathered by marketers for their own unique research. So you can do this through various methods. Sometimes it can be surveys done either online or through the telephone, an interview, or focus groups. Some of you have heard of focus groups, and focus groups is where you bring together a group of people who meet under the direction of usually a discussion leader or facilitator to communicate opinions. The third and fourth steps of marketing research can be found on slide 31. So you gotta now analyze the data. Marketers must turn data into useful information because data without analyzing is just data. You need to make it information. Finally, in step 4, you got to implement the decision. You evaluate your actions and then you implement. If you don't implement, you haven't done anything. So let's look at a new topic, which is known as environmental scanning. Environmental scanning is a process of identifying factors that affect marketing success. And these can be through various factors, whether global, technological, sociocultural, competitive, or economic. Here is a visual representation of environmental scanning. And what you can see here, it always starts with the consumer in the middle, and then right outside of the consumer is the marketing mix. Remember the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. And then outside of that is the exterior marketing environment here. And remember, these are your 5 different factors. So I want you to spend some time in depth to look at these 5 different factors and see how it affects marketing in particular.